Hello again. My name is Jesse Hill. I'm the president of Tier 3 IT Solutions, and we're here for another episode of Phishing Fridays. And as always, joined by Justin.
Hi, Justin Grado, Tier 3 IT Solutions, and I'm the security specialist here.
Awesome. So today we want to talk a little bit more about, cyber attacks and the focus on, gaining access control and exploiting, the end user for financial gain. And one of the things that these cyber criminal groups do is they always try to find ways of how to extend their reach. We talked last time about why they might focus on small and medium businesses because they may not have, the budgets for cybersecurity that a big organization would have. However, they also know that if they are able to breach or compromise or somehow leverage a larger vendor, it greatly expands their reach and their impact and the financial implications of that. So Justin, tell us a little bit more about this type of attack and maybe what we know about it from a cybersecurity perspective.
Well, supply chain attacks are attacks that they target, maybe they want to target a large business, so they will go through a smaller business to get to that large business. In some cases, they'll target a software like vendor, or they'll target a hardware provider, and they will try to get some way to drop malware into or their own code into the software or the hardware, so that they can have some backdoor into the customers of that vendor. They're taking advantage in this case of a business's relationship and their trust with customers, and ultimately what they're trying to do is not target the business itself, but the customers that serve that business.
Yeah, and so we've seen some examples of this, and we'll just talk about a couple of them because they're interesting. So the first one that we're going to talk about is the event in July of 2021 that used the Kaseya VSA software. And so this is a remote monitoring and management tool that IT companies and IT departments use to monitor their computers, send out alerts when things aren't working, run scripts, push software, all kinds of things. And what happened was that somebody out there found what is called a 0-day vulnerability within the software, meaning it wasn't public knowledge yet that there was a flaw in the software. They were able to use that flaw in the VSA software to push ransomware out to, it depends which reports you read, but thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, or potentially millions of computers worldwide. This created, chaos. It was front page on, many news outlets. And actually, the president of the United States, Joe Biden, actually had delayed one of his, trips to be briefed on this particular situation because it was so significant. So I guess, Justin, we talked about this a little bit in our, our lead up off camera here, but, what do you think was important for us to know or to learn about from this particular situation?
From this particular incident, I think it's important that we stress the idea that we're using tools and we cannot control that we use them. Like, whether you're driving a car or whether you're walking down the street, you're going to be seeing and using tools. Like, you press the stop sign, there's software that runs that. Like, everything we do in life, we're using tools that can be a part of a network of cybersecurity. You have to use these tools. IT companies are forced, because of productivity, to use these tools, and you can't pick the right one out of the box. There's always going to be a threat. There could be a flaw that someone can find, and that could end up being a huge incident like this. A completely secure computer is a computer that's one in the box, that's turned off, not connected to the internet. And why buy a computer if you're not going to use it to its maximum? So all we got to do is look at what are the best practices, what we learned from this incident, and how can we prevent something like this in the future, right?
Yeah, and I think you bring up some good points there, right? A lot of these things as consumers, as users of them, we're not aware that we're even using certain products or software packages, or on and on and on. We have it because we've chosen a certain tool. As an example, another incident we were going to talk about was the 3CX phone breach, or incident, whatever you call it, and that happened earlier this year as well. And it became a significant issue because it was discovered in a number of different versions of their software that there was extra code that had been injected in there that was able to be used as a backdoor to remote access, to control, to do all the things that we've talked about. And as a business owner, you may not always think about what's the underlying code of the phone that I'm using, but the phone has software that's installed on your computers, because it's a soft phone, or there's software on the phone itself that's plugged into your network because that's how it connects. So I think what we've learned as we've matured in our business is that everything that gets plugged into the network has the potential to enhance our business's productivity and efficiency and those types of things, but it also presents risk, and it needs to be monitored and secured and patched, and continuously going through that loop to make sure that we're hopefully lowering our risk of an incident. So when it comes to Internet of Things devices, I guess maybe how do you think we can make better choices about what kinds of devices we're putting on our networks?
Really good question, because we're talking about Internet of Things. We're talking about sometimes it's webcams or cameras, like security cameras. We're talking about Amazon Alexa. We're talking about the smart home devices, anything, or in some cases you have industrial control systems. They're sort of like an IoT device, and with all these things have in common is you don't want them to be operating on the same network as your corporate environment. So your IT and your operational technology, your Internet of Things, should be separated. And typically these IoT devices, your cameras and the lot of that is they're less secure. Smart TVs, you've seen people hack those, and if they, Samsung TVs or anything like that, like they have these abilities to listen. They have the ability to take advantage of those types of things. So it's important to secure that with network segmentation, or just keeping it on a separate network as your more important things, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said about brand and about reputation, and about cost. A lot of these things that we see, we have a choice between two different devices that do the same thing. Well, if they're a drastically different price point, you have to consider how is that vendor going to provide the research and the development and the support and the security patching on an ongoing basis if they're not charging the appropriate price. So, we're all tired of subscriptions, but the reason a lot of, the, industry leading, vendors in these markets use subscriptions is so that they can continuously develop and update and patch and, add new features and new security. On one, quick little side note, I always find it so funny when you think about our parents' generations, mine and your parents' generation and our grandparents' generations. A lot of them grew up being very concerned about being monitored or listened to. And then now in the modern home, we have all of these devices that we expect them to be listening to us. And so even that, there's been stories over the years about how much of that data is being collected and processed and listened to. Again, reputable companies make a big difference in that cybersecurity posture and those choices that you might make. All right. Well, thanks again, Justin. It was a great chat, and we'll catch up again on the next one.
Thanks, everybody.